everybody, my name is Kelly Dale and I'm owner of Off the Beaten Path located in Forest City, North Carolina. Even though it's the middle of February, it is an absolute gorgeous day here in North Carolina, so I had to come outside and get me a little sun while I was doing the intro for the video. But this week I want to teach you how to do St. Petersburg stitch. I believe Valerie, one of our YouTube subscribers, is the one who asked me to do this video a while back. So Valerie, this one is for you. I hope you enjoy it. Basically what you're going to need for the video today is a size 11 seed bead, and you're going to be seeing a lot of this seed bead. You're going to need a size 8 seed bead for your accent beads. And then you're going to need some 6-pound fire line and a size 10 beading needle. So let's get your stuff together and get started. Okay, so we're ready to get started. This pink here is going to be my size 11. The bronze is going to be my size 8 seed beads for the project. I've threaded a needle onto about 3 yards of fire line. Now you will have to add thread, so be sure and work with what you're comfortable with. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up and I'm going to put on a stop bead. Now I'm using a purple Delica, which is completely different from anything I'm using, so that way I won't get it confused. And I'm going to bring the stop bead down, and I'm going to leave myself about a tail about the length of my mat, which is about 14 inches. And from the tail, I'm going to come up through that stop bead, so that when I pull, that thread will be wrapped around the stop bead. And this is going to be, we can take this just temporary, we can take this off when we're finished, so that's not a problem. And I'm going to see if I can zoom in here a little bit so you can see it a little better. There we go. Okay, so the first thing to do in St. Petersburg stitch is I'm going to pick up 6 of my color A seed beads. Color A is going to be my size 11. So pick up 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, so I have my 6 beads here. I can already tell I'm going to have to take my bracelet off. For those of you who haven't seen it, that's my bracelet that I have on. This is a kit that we have on our Etsy site right now. It's called the Flower Fringe Bracelet Kit. But, so I've got my 6 beads, drop them down, and it says sew through the 3rd and 4th A again, so that the 5th and 6th A form an adjacent column, which basically means you've got 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then you've got 5 and 6 here. So we want to sew back up through 3 and 4. Just those 2, going from the tail upward. So I've got 1, 2, I'm going through 3 and 4, and then when I pull, I'll have 5 and 6 laying next to them here. And they'll form right next to each other. Just like that. I'm going to pick up 1 size 8 seed bead. Okay, that's my B. And then I'm going to pick up 1 A, which is my size 11. And I'm going to let those drop. So this is what I've got so far. I'm going to take my needle, I'm going to skip the last 11 that I put on, and I'm going to come down through my 8 and my number 3 and 4 size 11 seed beads, going back towards the tail. So now that leaves my size 11 seed bead up here, and it catches, so that way it forms a little point there at the end. I'm going to pick up 1 color B, which is my size 8 seed bead, and I'm going to come up through beads 5 and 6, which is my 2 new beads here on that one column. I'm going to go right up through them, going away from the tail. So that now, this is what we have. I'm going to pick up 4 color A. And I'm going to let them drop all the way down to the base. I'm going to pull them back a little bit so that you can see. Basically, I'm going to skip the last 2 that I put on, which are these 2 here, and I'm going to go up through the first 2 that I put on of that set of 4. Just like this. I'm going to hold those beads in my fingers and I'm going to pull the thread so that now this is what we'll have. This was our first column, and as we start to work, these beads here, the size 8 in the middle, that's gonna form the middle of the bracelet. What you're doing here is the sides of the bracelet. So now we'll pick up a color B, which is our size 8, and a color A, which is our size 11. We let those drop down. And now we're just going to start the repetitive motion of our project. We're going to skip the 11 that we just started on, and I'm going to go down through the 8 and 2 11s in that same column. Pull. I'm going to pick up a color B, which is my size 8, and I'm going to come right up through the 2 new beads here in the other column. So that now, that's what you should have thus far. I'm going to pick up 4A, and I'm going to let them drop all the way down to the base. I'm going to skip the last 2 that I put on, and I'm going to go up through those first 2 that I just threaded on. Hold those in my fingers, pull the thread nice and tight. Now I'm going to pick up a color B, which is my 8, and a color A, which is my 11. I'm going to let those drop all the way down. I'm going to skip the 11 that I just threaded on. I'm just pulling it back so you guys can see. Then I'm going to go down through my size 8 and the 2 11s there in that same column. So that when I pull, the little 11 stays in its place. Now I'm going to pick up a color B, which is my size 8, and I'm going to come right up through the new column of 2. Four, color A. Let these drop all the way down. Skip the last 2 that I just threaded on, and I'm going to go up through the first 2. So that forms my new column. I'm going to pick up a color B and a color A, which is my size 8 and my size 11. Let these drop all the way down. I'm going to skip the 11 that I just threaded on, and I'm going to go down through the 8 and the 2 11s there in the column. And then I'm going to pick up one color B, which is my 8, and I'm going to go right up through the 2 beads of the new column. And you want to continue doing this pattern until you reach within a 1/2 inch of the desired length, because we need to be sure and leave room for the clasp. Then I'll show you how to do the second side. Okay, so I have finished off the length of my bracelet, and I need to go ahead and tie off this end here, the end that I've already finished, with my thread, so that way I can start again on the other end of the bracelet, working up on this side. So what we need to do is you want to finish exactly like I did here by coming up through the last 2 seed beads there that you had threaded on in that new stack. And when you do that, what we want to do is we want to actually go ahead, and I'm going to do a couple of 1/2 hitch knots. So I'm going to come under the thread between the stacks of 2 here. Leave myself a little loop, stick the needle through the loop, and pull. I'll go down through my next stack, and basically what you want to do is just go through and do a couple of really good knots, some of your 1/2 hitch knots here in between through your beadwork, so that way everything will stay good and secure for this side of the bracelet. And this also, as I work through, helps us to reinforce our stitching a little bit. So, and once I've got those couple of knots in there, you can put as many or whatever you want to do. It's completely up to you. I'll go ahead and take my scissors, and I'll nip that, and remember, never go through or never cut the thread right at the knot. So I have the length finished, and I need to come back down here to my tail. I want to keep that long tail that I've got so that I can actually add my clasp when I'm finished. So I'm going to cut a new piece of fire line that is approximately 2 to 3 yards, again, just like I did the other. Now I'm going to actually take, and I'm going to tie my thread on here into my beadwork, and then I'm going to stitch back down to come out of this last bead right before the stop bead. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up to about the second. Let me get my thread together here so I can show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to come up here under the second size 8 seed bead, and I'm going to make sure that my thread goes in between the size 8 seed bead and the size 11 seed bead, and I'm going to leave myself a little bit of a tail that I can stitch in, and I'm going to tie, and actually if it helps you, go ahead and start you a little knot there. Stick it up under that second size 8 seed bead. Make sure when you pull nice and tight that that knot goes in between the size 11 and the size 8 seed bead that you have there. And I'm going to put about 2 knots in here. I'm going to take my tail thread that I've got, and I'm going to thread a needle onto the tail, and I'm going to stitch through the 8, going to go through the 11 and then straight back down through that stack of beads. Pull that nice and tight, and you can go ahead and trim the tail from the thread that you just added. Now, I'm going to take my working thread and I'm going to stitch down to come out of the last bead here before the stop bead. So I'll go down through my stack of 11s. And then I'll come right, I'll skip my, well, you can go through the size 8 here. And then go down through those last two 11s down here at the stop bead. And then make sure you don't get the thread caught around any of your little prongs or your little sticky up things here. I'm sure that was a real technical word to use, but you know how that goes. Okay, so this is what I have. My thread is coming out of the bead right before my stop bead, and my stop bead is still there so that I can go back and add my clasp near the end, or when I finish. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up 6 of my A's. So those are my size 11 seed beads. And I'm going to let them drop all the way down. I'm going to skip the 5th and 6th size 11, and I'm going to go up through the 3rd and the 4th, just like I did in the very first step on this side. So you've got 2 at your stop bead, you're going to go through 2, and then you've got 2 up here, so that when you pull, your threads will, or your 2 beads will lay next to each other just like they did here on this side. Now you're going to pick up a B and an A, which is your 8 and an 11. Let those drop down. And just like we did on this side, we are going to skip the 11, that last 11 we put on, and you're going to go back down through the 8 and the 2 11s right after it. Now, here's the big difference from the first side to the second side. At this point on the first side, we would have picked up our size 8 seed bead and went up through our new stack of 2. Well, we're connecting the 2 sides together. This is double St. Petersburg stitch. We're connecting them, so what we're actually going to do is I'm going to go through my first size 8 here in the center. And then I'm going to go up through my new stack of 2 there to the side and pull. So that when you do that, now you have what I call 2 arms or 2 legs, however you want to call it, sticking out exactly symmetrical to each other. So now we're going to continue coming up basically the same exact way we did on this side here, except for instead of picking up that 8, we're actually going to go through it. So I'm going to pick up 4 size 11s, color A, and let those drop. I'm going to skip the last 2 that I put on and go up through the first 2. Make sure you pull it down to your base there. I'm going to pick up an 8, color B, and an 11, color A. Let those drop down. Skip the 11 and go back down through the 8 and the 2 11s right below it. Now, instead of picking up my size 8 like I would have on this side, I'm going to go right up through the size 8 and then through the 2 seed beads of the new stack. Just like that. Okay, so to continue, the pattern is 4 size 11s, color A's, let them drop all the way down, skip the last 2 and go up through the first 2 that you added, and be sure, what in the world? There we go. Okay, be sure to pull the new stack down to the base here. I'm going to pick up a color B and a color A, which is an 8 and an 11. And I'm going to let those drop all the way down. I'm going to skip the last 11 that I put on and go down through the 8 and the 2 11s right below it. Now, instead of adding my size 8 like I would have, I'm going to go through the size 8 here in the center and then up through the 2 beads from my new stack. And you want to continue that pattern all the way for the length of the bracelet. Okay, so I finished the whole other length of my bracelet, and when I got to the end, I went through the 8 just like I normally would and up through my new stack of 2. But now I need to stitch back around to come out of this size 8 seed beads so that I can add my clasp. So I'm just going to come straight down through the 2 pink again that are under my size 8 seed bead here on the edge. And then I'm going to go right through that size 8 seed bead. Now I'm going to use a lobster claw clasp for mine with a little extender chain. And I'm going to use the antiqued copper or the antiqued brass so that way it'll match really good with what I've got. So I'm going to pick up a size 8 and 6 size 11 seed beads, and I'm going to let those drop. And I'm going to pick up the end here of my extender chain, and I'm going to go back down through the 2 8s. So that when I pull, now my extender chain is attached. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch back around through my beads, and I'm going to reinforce this by going through the clasp a couple of really good times, and then I'm going to tie off this end, and I'll show you how to put the clasp on the other end. Okay, so as you can see, I finished this side of the clasp, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip around to the other side, and I've taken my stop bead off. I've just pulled it right off, and I'm ready to put on the other side of my clasp. So I'm going to thread on my needle onto this end. I'm going to pick up 3 seed beads, 3 size 11 seed beads, the other part to my clasp, and 3 size 11 seed beads. Actually, no, wait. Take that off. I'm going to change that up. I'm going to pick up an 8. I'm going to pick up 3 size 11s. I'm going to pick up my clasp and 3 size 11s. I'm going to let that drop all the way down. And I'm going to go back down through the 11 and my seed beads here on the base, so that when I pull, now I have got my clasp attached. And so I'm going to go through and I'm going to stitch through my beads. So I'll basically stitch up through one little arm and back down through, and then I'll stitch back up through all these beads again here to reinforce, and then back down and tie a few half hitch knots. So I hope you guys enjoyed learning how to do St. Petersburg stitch. I taught you the single, which is the one side, and then the double, which is doing both sides. It's not a hard stitch, you just have to pay attention to what step you're on. So be sure and check out our Facebook page the coming week to see some more samples of different variations of the St. Petersburg stitch that you can do. I'm going to do one where I add crystals down the center, and I'm going to try and do one, a new design with some of our new flower beads that hopefully I'm going to be able to get onto our Etsy site in the next few days. So be sure and check that out. If you're not our fan on Facebook, be sure and go to our Facebook page and become our fan so that you can see what we're up to during the week. I also list on our Facebook page when we're putting up new patterns, new kits, when we restock certain items, so just be sure and check that out. For 24 hours a day, you can check out offthebeadedpathbeadstore.com, which is our official website for our store. Next week, I'm going to be teaching you a fabulous new project, and I'm so excited. I've had a lot of people over the past year ask me to do a necklace that will match the Monty embellished pearl bracelet that I did earlier in the year last year. So I've come up with 2 versions. One version I'm going to do the video on, and it's a very beautiful V-shaped necklace that uses 6mm pearl, size 11 seed beads, and 3.9mm Monties. The other version is one that I'm going to have a pattern actually on our Etsy page, and it's pretty neat because with the with this one, it's a more round collar style, and it's very, very beautiful. I've done 2 of them so far. One is a sample at the store right now, and one my mom is actually wearing. My dad gave it to her for Valentine's Day, so they're absolutely gorgeous, and you guys are going to love them. Love, 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 love them. So I'm going to try and really stock up. I may have to take out a small loan at the bank, but I'm going to really try and stock up on the Monty so that you guys, I won't run out, so everybody can get the color that they want. As far as everybody always asks what I have on today in the videos, like I said earlier, the bracelet is our flower fringe bracelet kit that I have on our Etsy site. The ring that I have on is the oval ring that is on a free video on our Etsy channel, so go there to look at that. And then the earrings that I have on are just simply some copper tone hoops that we have has been wire wrapped the flowers on. And like I said, these flowers are something new that we got into our shop. They are acrylic flowers, but they are so fun to work with because they're lightweight, and you can really do a lot with them, especially for the spring and summer. And spring and summer, so far everything I've seen is everything is going to be bright, bold pops of color. So what better way to add color to your wardrobe than through your jewelry? So hopefully, like I said, they'll be on Etsy, but I hope that you guys guys have a fantastic week, and I hope you try and do the St. Petersburg stitch because it's not that bad, I promise you. And you guys have a blessed week, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.